च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च भूमिर्भौमो न तेजो न वायु चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न च प्राणसङ्गो न वै पञ्चवायु न वा सप्तधातु न वा पञ्चकोशा न वा पाणिपादौ न च वास्तवायु चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मे द्वेषरागो न मे लोभो मोहो वादनैव मे नैव मात्सर्यभावः न धर्मो न च अर्थो न कामो न मोक्षो चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न पुण्यं न पापं न सुखं न दुःखं न मन्त्रं न तीर्थ न वेद न यज्ञः अहं भोजनं नैव भोजं न भोक्ता चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मृत्यु न शङ्का न मे जातिभेद पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्म न बन्धु न मित्रं गुरु नैव शिष्यः चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं अहं निर्विकारो निराकाररूपं विभूत्या च सर्वत्र सर्वैन्द्रियाणां न च सङ्गतं नैव मुक्तिनामेय चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं এখন বেদমন্ত্র পাঠ করব, সবাই জয়েন করুন। We're now going to do the chanting. Om Bhagme Manasi Mati Pratisthita Manaho Me Bachi Pratisthita
Om Bhagme Manosi Pratisthita Manoho Me Bachi Pratisthita
Avihi Meri Vedasyamani Saha Krutam Me Ma Prahasiha Niyoditeno Auratram Sangdadami Ritang Vadishwami Satyang Vadishwami Mamavatu Tadvakaramavatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
Om Shanti
Om Apayonto Mamangani Bhakranah Chokshuhu
Om
Shrotramatha Balamindiyani Cha Sarvani Maham Brahmo Nirakuriyat Mama Brahmo Nirakarot Anirakarnamastu Anirakarnamastu धर्मस्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु
धर्मस्ते मयि सन्तु मयि सन्तु
ॐ शान्ति 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 ॐ पूर्णमादः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते
पूर्णमदाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते
पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सहनो भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ शान्नो मित्रः शान्वरुणः शान्नो भवति हर्योमः शान्नो इन्द्रः बृहस्पतिः शान्नो विष्णु रुक्रमः नमः ब्रह्मणे नमः देवाय अमीव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि स्वामीव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि रीतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तद्मामवतु तद्भक्तानामवतु मामवतु भक्तानाम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणाम देवा
ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शर्वां देवा
भद्रं पश्येमाक्षवीययोत्रः
भद्रं
Janityatra
Hidayangai tustuvangshatanovihi Imadevahitang yatayu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
ॐ शान्तिः
আমরা আজকে আমাদের আলোচনায় প্রবেশ করছি. We are now starting our discussion. Today I am actually talking from a different country. It's in Mauritius. It's surrounded by the waters of Indian Ocean and far apart from the mainland, the country. However, the time zone difference is only 1.5 hours. It's 1.5 hours later than India's time. So today our discussion is on the origin of devotion. This is a very important point. This devotion is something which is common in all spiritual principles. If you look at any spiritual principle, any religious stream, you'll find that devotion is a common parameter. But then there is a need and urge to find out where is it originated from. That is the discussion point today, and how did it develop, and what are the ramifications of that, different streams of that, and different ideas about devotion, different ideas about adopting devotion in life or maintaining and developing devotion in life. So that is one of the most important thing that we need to proceed further, and we need to introspect for that. আজকে আমাদের আলোচনার সূত্র হলো ভক্তি এবং ভক্তির উৎস। ভক্তি এবং ভক্তির উৎস এটি ভীষণ গুরুত্বপূর্ণ, কারণ আমাদের যে কোনো চিন্তাধারাতে, যে কোনো আধ্যাত্মিক চিন্তাধারার মধ্যে ভক্তি একটা সাধারণ হয়ে আছে, এটা সবার মধ্যেই যেন উপস্থিত হয়ে আছে কম বেশি। সবারই ক্লেম আছে, সবারই সেখানে বর্ণনা আছে, বলা আছে যে ভক্তি তাদের প্রধান, এবং ভক্তি একটি প্রধান অঙ্গ। এটি প্রায় সব আধ্যাত্মিক তত্ত্ব বা আধ্যাত্মিক ধারার মধ্যেই আছে। সেটি পৃথিবীর যেখান থেকেই আসুক না কেন, সেখানে আছে ভক্তি প্রভাব, ভক্তির উপস্থিতি সর্বত্রই আছে। কিন্তু আমাদের দেখতে হবে যে ভক্তির উৎসভূমি কোথায় এবং সেটি কেমনভাবে বিস্তৃত হলো। সেই আলোচনাটি খুব বিস্তৃত আলোচনা, এটি খুব বড় মাপের আলোচনা, কিন্তু তার কিছু অংশ আমরা আজকে প্রায় সূত্রপাত করব, আর বাকি অংশ পরে আবার আস্তে আস্তে হবে। So today we are going to enter into the origin of the stream of devotion and the thoughts and concepts of devotion. It was first conceptualized in the Vedic period, that was in the Samvedic period. Bhakti or devotion was originated. It had actually taken a shape, the seeding, and up to having taken a shape, it was done in Samvedas. Samvedas was visualized by the sages by the grace of Divine Mother Saraswati, and that was actually the phase where, when you have an invocation of the Supreme Divine through the Rigvedic thoughts and Rigvedic process, and you have got a solemn declaration for the objectives of life and objectives of living in the world, after that you need to have a process which would actually allow you to contain those fundamental thoughts and promises and take it forward in life, and how to translate that into practice and action in life, that becomes very, very pertinent and important. And that is the reason why devotion is one of the most important cardinal principle in spiritual thoughts throughout the world in different, and it's as I have already mentioned, it's somewhat common in almost all streams and for all segments of thoughts in the world, particularly the spiritual thoughts. So we're now getting into the origin. It was first visualized by sages in the Samvedas. Samvedas was constituted actually to maintain the presence of divine. When you invite someone to your house or to your place, then there is a need to have a entertaining the person whom you have invited. So Rig Vedas is for invocation, meaning inviting the god. Inviting where? Now, the God you are inviting him, or in any form, or in a formless, for consciousness in your being. And the Rigvedic thoughts was that you come and be there, seated in my thoughts, in my mind, and you inspire me totally, and you appear before me, you reveal yourself before me. And this revelation is an act of the pragyan, or the wisdom. So you provide me, you offer me that the supreme wisdom or the spiritual wisdom that you yourself are embodied for. ঋগ্বেদে যখন আমাদের ভগবানকে আহ্বান করা হয়, সেই আহ্বান করা হয় আমাদের মনে, প্রাণের, হৃদয়ে, আমাদের বাকে, সর্বত্র, এবং আমাদের চেতনার মধ্যে, এবং আহ্বান করা হয় এই জন্যই যে তুমি আমাদের মধ্যে এসো, আমাদের জীবনে এসো এবং জীবনকে পরিচালিত করো. That is the first and fundamental objective of the Rig Vedas, and it culminates into a promise, which we had a discussion the last week and last before last week also, when I was talking from London last before last week. At that time also it was discussed. The principle of Vedas and the objective of the Vedic thoughts. The principle and objective of the Vedic thoughts is to create a life which is an ideal, a life which is like the lives of the divine personalities, and finally to transform the human existence, the human consciousness, into the consciousness of divinity or consciousness of noble being. And therefore the final objective which had culminated to was constituted in the form of understanding the truth, revealing the truth, living the life of truth, and maintaining truth in everything, everywhere, in every thoughts, practices, in our works, deeds, interactions, and in our formations in the world, and spreading the message of truth. And the truth essentially is the truth of God and the Supreme. God remains present in various ways. God could be, realized, God could be understood in a particular form of your choice, or may not be in a form. It could be in the, void, in a consciousness which is free from all forms. ভগবানকে আমরা যে কোনোভাবে দেখতে পারি, তাকে যে কোনো রূপে বা অরূপে দেখতে পারি। অরূপে যখন ভগবানকে আমরা দেখি, তখন তিনি একটি চেতনা, একটি আলোক, একটি নির্বিকার, বা একটি কোনো কিছু রংবিহীন, কোনো কিছু পরিচয়বিহীন একটি বস্তু, যে বস্তু আমাদের মধ্যে এসে যেন মিশে যায়। যেমন বায়ু এসে মিশে যায়, তেমন বায়ুর মতো সেরকম একটি বস্তু, যাকে দেখা যায় না, বোঝা যায়, বুঝতে চাইলে বোঝা যায়, বুঝতে পারলে বোঝা যায়। So then finally it had converged into a thought and promise, wherein we develop a equality, and we develop a collective consciousness, we develop homogeneity, we develop system of unity, we develop globalized system where the primacy of truth and primacy of God is established in life. অর্থাৎ বেদের যে মূল সূত্রটি, মূল প্রতিজ্ঞা, যেটি মানুষের মধ্যে নেওয়া হলো ঋষিগণ, যেটি বুঝতে পারলেন, জানলেন, অনুভব করলেন দেবী সরস্বতীর কৃপায়। তারা বুঝলেন যে এটাই সমানীব ও আকুতি, তোমাদের সবার হৃদয়গুলো এক ধরনের চাওয়া পাওয়া গড়ে উঠুক, এক ধরনের মন গড়ে উঠুক, একই রকমভাবে তোমরা সবাই নিজেকে এবং অন্যকে বিচার করতে শুরু করো, এবং তোমাদের মধ্যে একটি সামঞ্জস্য তৈরি হোক, তোমাদের মধ্যে একটি একতা তৈরি হোক, এবং তোমরা সকলেই মিলে একটি একতা এবং সামঞ্জস্য করবে এই কারণে যে তোমরা সবাই ভগবানের প্রতিনিধিত্ব করছো, তোমরা সবাই এই জগতে আছো, এই পৃথিবীতে আছো ভগবানের এক একটি অংশ হিসাবে, ভগবানের এক একটি ভিন্ন ভিন্ন পরিচয় হিসাবে। So that was the kind of culminating thought in the Rig Vedas at the end of it, where the oneness was actually cultivated, and the oneness was in the spirit of things, where it was non-discriminative. There was no discrimination on the nation of origin, the country of origin, the place of origin, or the color of skin, or the religious identity, or any kind of social, cultural, segmental, or any kind of sectoral identity of any kind. So it is non-discriminative in the ultimate sense of the term, and this oneness was oneness with one supreme personality, the Purushottam. The supreme personality is one in himself, and it is actually oneness with that supreme personality. And that supreme personality is Purushottam. He is such a personality was got, it's like a banyan tree whose roots are there on the our sky, and the branches and leaves are there in the well, and the leaves and branches are there in the well, and there the lives do flourish. But then the inspiration and the thoughts and the core of the consciousness, the core of the spirit comes from the super sky, and from the domain of the supreme Brahman. And therefore this the presence of Purushottam is actually identity created with the Purushottam or the supreme personality, while being on earth, while living a life of a human being as a distinctly different life with an identity in the world. And but that identity is not the primary. The primacy is the oneness of the thoughts. Primacy is the oneness of consciousness. ঋগ্বেদের ঋষিগণ যেটি আবিষ্কার করলেন এবং বললেন যে তোমরা মূলত তোমাদের মধ্যে যে ঐক্য, সামঞ্জস্য, সংহতি এবং এক মন, এক প্রাণ, এক হৃদয়, এটি গড়ে তোলার যে প্রতিজ্ঞা, এটি তোমাদেরকে জগতে গড়ে তুলতে হবে, এবং এই তুলবার জন্য তোমাদের আশ্রয় রয়েছে একটি মহাশক্তির কাছে, পরম শক্তির কাছে, পরম পরম পুরুষের কাছে। তিনি কেমন না যেন একটি অশ্বত্থ, সেই তার বৃক্ষটি যেমন বিপরীত বৃক্ষ, অর্থাৎ এর শিকড়, এর মূল রয়েছে সেই মহাশূন্যে, বিস্তৃত অসীম অনন্ত মহাশূন্যে, এবং তার দেহ এবং তার কাণ্ড, তার শাখা প্রশাখা, তার লতাপাতা সবই রয়েছে এই জগতের মাঝখানে। সমস্ত প্রাণগুলোই সেগুলি তাকে রিপ্রেজেন্ট করছে। মূলত আইডেন্টিটি হলো সবার একটি কমন আইডেন্টিটি, সেখানে সকলেই এক একটি অংশ ওই পুরুষোত্তমের। এই বোধ যখন আসবে সেটিকেই বলা হচ্ছে প্রজ্ঞা। তাই ঋষি বললেন প্রজ্ঞানাং ব্রহ্ম। So there was a concept which became the core thought in the Rig Vedas, that Prajnanang Brahman. Prajnanang Brahman is the wisdom of Brahman is the Brahman himself. The meaning is the Brahman is equated to or represented through the wisdom and wise realization of this Supreme. And the realization should be the realization in the form of universality. There was a concept of universality, which was conceptualized in the European region by Immanuel Kant, a British scholar, philosopher. And the universality was actually presented through a concept of Tariskaya Kasmas. Meaning is, universality was conceived as, presence in the entire creation, this cosmic creation. And but then presence is connected through what? There was no answer in Kantian philosophies or Kantian model. Kantian model was actually he had an endeavor to actually find out. He was inspired by the thoughts of the Upanishads, but he could not finally connect it to the ultimate domain of that. Our sages have done it, and the point is, you are a part of this supreme consciousness, and the supreme consciousness is all embracing, and he is present through his elemental consciousness in all living being, and therefore you have got a relation with that element as a elemental consciousness. You have got a relation with the supreme because you are a part of that, because you are originated from that, because you have a origin, common origin of him ultimately, and in the ultimate sense of the term. সেজন্যই সকলের যে আদি অস্তিত্ব সেটি ভগবানের মধ্যেই আছে, সকলের মধ্যেই ভগবানের এক অস্তিত্বের কণা, একটি চেতন কণা বিরাজমান হয়ে আছে। আর এ কারণেই সকলের সঙ্গে সকলেরই একটি যেন সম্পর্ক হয়ে আছে, এবং সেই সম্পর্ককে ঋষিরা রিট্রিভ করতে, সেটিকেই উদ্ধার করতে বললেন, এবং সেটি যদি উদ্ধার হয়ে যায়, সেটি আর কোনো রকম বিভেদ তার মধ্যে থাকে না, তখন সব একত্বের ডাক আসে। So there was a call, ultimate call of the oneness, which was actually the call from India, from the in the Vedic period, from the period of the Rig Vedas, which I have calculated that it's actually 30,000, roughly around 30,000 years from now backwards. And therefore, and that had a flourishing point, that had unfoldment during this civilization of Harappan and Mohenjo-daro. Some relics of that is actually revealing that, and there were some remarks by Marshall, there were some remarks by others, and the remarks by some new scholar, Quender Delst, when he had actually explored into Augusta to Ambedkar, this, he was also actually looking into that. European scholars of a few during the last 50 years, they have actually explored that. Actually, 60 years, they have actually explored that, and come up to certain ideas which are actually contrary to the established thoughts and ideas which our scholars are copying from the West as a concept which was presented during the British rule in India. Which was actually had an objective to prove that fact that Europe was superior, Western civilization was superior, and India has actually drawn from the superior philosophy, superior civilization of the West, and India has grown because of their nurturing of India during their rule in India, which is totally a false and wrong concept that some of the European scholars tried to put across, and thoroughly, it can be thoroughly, totally rejected fully without any kind of cognizance to that, because it is not founded on truth. It is an untruth that they have presented for almost 125 years or more, and that had actually influenced our scholars during the early period of the last century, or later period of the last to last century in India. And obviously at that point of time they were our rulers, and so people tried to follow the rulers footways, footmarks, and that was the reason. And even now the scholars with a view to get their recognition in the form of postdoctoral or doctoral or delete and some kind of recognitions abroad, they are actually continuously trying to do that, but these are actually getting ridiculed now because of the new truth having discovered and retrieved. Actually that is the reality which has been actually retrieved, and it is the reverse. The first civilization had taken a dawn in India, and that's during the Vedic civilization. And this Vedic civilization had an impact and influence throughout the all span of the world. And that is the mother and parental source of all civilizations in the world. And that was not understood before when Vivekananda had traveled in the ship and made a remark about the Christian civilization and Egyptian civilization also at the same time. And he made a mark that India's civilization has not died down. It is actually even now continuing with a vibrant strength of its potential within. But then the Christian civilization and the Egyptian civilization were not that original and the first finding of the African caves, depicting that African caves are the finding of the earliest form of human being. That is not a point to reckon. The point to reckon is when was this civilized form of the society built, and that was in India only. And because of the wealth of because the wealth that had been amassed by India, developed by India, people from across the globe, they used to hear about India and used to try to reach out to India, and that's how America was discovered. Because the person and a team of people, they wanted to come to India to retrieve some wealth from India, and then come back to their own place and develop their place with the wealth that they have drawn from India. There is a new study which has proved that some part of United Kingdom, which was Yorkshire and certain other areas, which are actually developed because of after almost 15 to 20 years of having captured India, the wealth that were initial period, only first 20 years period, looting of India's wealth could make them superior wealthy, and that contributed to the beginning of a mega development activities, which have made them actually developed and far superior developed, and many of us try to follow that. But when we come to the culture and the tradition and the consciousness and the spirit of things, we find that even now there is no spirit and no culture, no consciousness which can actually compare with this. Such a wide and spread out, the span of India's consciousness was. The Samvedas are started by Gemini, says Gemini. ঋষি জৈমিনী সামবেদটা শুরু করলেন। ঋষি জৈমিনী সামবেদে শুরু করতেই তিনি কেনোপনিষদের আইডিয়াটি পেলেন। কেনোপনিষদের আইডিয়াটি পেলেন, সেখানে দ্য কনসেপ্ট অফ মাদার, মায়ের কনসেপ্টটি আসলো। দেবী উমা হৈমবতী, উমা হৈমবতীকে মহাকাশে দেখা গেল। তিনি স্বয়ং নিজেই আবির্ভূতা হলেন, এবং তাকে প্রথম যিনি আবিষ্কার করতে পারলেন তার নাম ইন্দ্র, দেবরাজ ইন্দ্র। তিনি কেমনভাবে আবিষ্কার করতে পারলেন না, যখন অগ্নি বায়ু এরা সবই তার কাছে গিয়ে পরাজিত হয়ে আসলো, তাদের এমফ্যাটিক ইগো যখন ধরা পড়ে গেল, তাদের অহং ধরা পড়ে গেল, তারা ওখান থেকে বিপর্যস্ত হয়ে যখন ফিরে আসলেন, অগ্নি পোড়াতে পারেন না একটা ঘাসও, বায়ু উড়াতে পারেন না একটা ঘাসও, তখন ইন্দ্রের মধ্যে একটা শ্রদ্ধা এবং ভালোবাসা, ভক্তি জাগ্রত হলো। দিস দ্য ফার্স্ট instant of having devotion stored and developed in within the system of any being, either human or divine. That is the first instance, first symptom. So প্রথমে ইন্দ্রের মনে ভক্তি জাগ্রত হলো। The first time it was actually noticed in the mind, in the heart, in the internal system of Indra, the king of the Devas, and when he had to proceed to the sky to understand the appearance of a supreme form, which was not identified, actually could not be identified before, and they wanted to identify. And initially he had sent the Agni, Bayu, these were the authorities of fire and air, and they had collapsed, failed because of their empathic ego. And Indra had in his mind developed something called Shraddha, the spirit of respect and faith in that unidentified source of energy. And also he had developed a element of devotion and love within. So this is the first time an element of devotion and love develops in a person's internal system. And when Indra came to him and came to her, then she had revealed her identity as Uma Haimavati, the supreme motherhood. And that supreme mother had appeared in the super sky in a formless condition, in the condition of a illumined object and a non-formed illumined object. Even then, Indra had a devotion and a love for that illumined object developed within his system, and that is the reason why he could visualize that supreme mother. So this is the onset of the theory of devotion. ভক্তির সূত্রপাত এখান থেকে হলো, যখন উমা হৈমবতীকে দর্শন করতে পারলেন ইন্দ্র, কারণ তার অন্তরের মধ্যে শ্রদ্ধা, ভালোবাসা এবং ভক্তি জাগ্রত হলো, এবং এই জন্যই তিনি উমা হেমবতীর পরিচয়টি পেলেন, এবং ওই জগন্মাতা তিনি ইন্দ্রের কাছে সেই পরিচয়টিকে ব্যক্ত করলেন, তিনি বললেন সেই পরিচয়টি, এবং এই পরিচয় ব্যক্ত হওয়ার জন্য উমা হৈমবতীর পরিচয়টি ইন্দ্র প্রাপ্ত হওয়ার পরে, and what Indra did is he had drawn the inspiration from the Supreme Mother, and now he had transformed the rule of living in the world of the devas, world of the divines, and therefore he has asked the other creatures to have their own thoughts and approaches transformed in accordance. So what was the transformation? That has been visualized in the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is a place which actually details about the birth, the walk, and the spread, and of course the culminating position of Lord Shri Krishna in totality. And Bhagavatam is the original source for that, and it was actually visualized long back, but then it was a post-Vedic period understood by a young sage called Shukdev Goswami. And Shukdev Goswami is the son of the great sage Vyasa. He is actually called Veda Vyasa. Veda Vyasa is the Vyasa who had actually edited the entire Vedas, and the Vedas were actually initiated by some senior sages like Vasishtha, Bhrigu, Angira, Atri, Pulastha, Pulaha. These were the group of very senior sages who had actually initiated the thoughts of Vedas, and these thoughts of Vedas came to them, dawned in them while they were into their activity, work. They were into full of activity, full of work, but their work was different in nature. The work was not the same as the others. So when this Sri Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya, Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya, he is actually called Sri Krishna Chaitanya or Sri Chaitanya. In short, he is known as Mahaprabhu in Bengal region, but in other regions of the country, he is not called Mahaprabhu, he is called Sri Chaitanya. So this Chaitanya had a conversation with Ramananda Rai Ramananda or Ramananda Rai. He was a king of a local region, and it was a conversation on the bank of the Godavaris, and in the southern part of the country. It is long back, almost 600 years ago. And then the conversation had revealed the theory of devotion. And the theory of devotion, this Chaitanya had asked Ramananda, because he knew that Ramananda is a practitioner of devotion. He is a very serious practitioner of devotion, even though he was doing the work of a king. He was doing the work of an administrator in a region, and he was a king of a small region, but then he was a king. And he had to do all the works of a king, and all the works of administration, finances, taking care of people and everything. রায় রামানন্দ একজন রাজা ছিলেন, এবং রাজকীয় যা যা কাজকর্ম সবই করতে হতো, এবং তিনি সেই রাজার মতোই চলতেন, কিন্তু অন্তরটা ছিল ভক্তিতে ভর্তি। তাই তার সঙ্গে মহাপ্রভুর দেখা হয় গোদাবরী তীরে, সেখানে ওদের সঙ্গে সংলাপ হয়। So Chaitanya had asked Rai Ramananda about what is the ultimate objective of a life. Then Ramananda had said the objective is to achieve the devotion of the divine. Then Sri Krishna Chaitanya or Sri Chaitanya had asked, রাই রামানন্দ বললেন যে জীবনে ভক্তি পাওয়াটাই হচ্ছে জীবনের সার। উনি জিজ্ঞেস করেছিলেন যে জীবনের সার কি, তা উনি বললেন, রামানন্দ বললেন, জীবনের সার হলো ভক্তি, ভক্তি পাওয়াটা হলো জীবনের সার, ভক্তি লাভ করাটা হলো জীবনের সার। তো মহাপ্রভু ওকে বললেন, তাহলে তুমি বলো, এই সাধ্য সাধন তত্ত্ব বলো। সাধ্য সাধন তত্ত্ব হলো সেই তত্ত্ব যে তত্ত্বের মধ্যে যে সাধন পথ বলা হবে, এবং যাকে সাধ্য মানে যাকে উদ্দেশ্য করে সেই সাধনটা হবে, যিনি উদ্দেশ্য, যিনি লক্ষ্য, তাকে বলা হয় সাধ্য। তাই সেই সাধ্যর জন্য সাধন, অর্থাৎ তাকে উপলক্ষ্য করে সাধন। So there was an objective identified, and the objective obviously were the Supreme Lord, and could be the Lord in life, Lord in a form. And that form, according to Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya, was Lord Sri Krishna. And so the Shraddha Sadhan Tattva, or the objective oriented, this principle centric way of doing the spiritual activity, was actually to achieve the devotion of that supreme in life and maintain that devotion in life. So Ramananda started off with saying that it is the karma, it is the work that you dedicate, you have a dedicated work, and dedicated work will take you to that, you know. তুমি যদি সেই রকম কর্ম করতে পারো, যে কর্ম তার কাছে তোমাকে পৌঁছে দেবে, সেই কর্ম যদি করতে পারো, তাহলে তোমার সেই হবে। তা হোয়াট ইজ দ্যাট কর্ম? Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachanaha. Lord Sri Krishna had said to Arjuna, and that was mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita in the context of the Mahabharata war, that karmanyevadikaraste, karmanyevaha adhikara astehe, karmanyevadikaraste ma karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadach. Phala is the, you know, result, is the, you know, is that what it culminates to. It gives an output, a result, you know, that result is phal. So ma phaleshu is don't, you know, hanker after, or don't look after even, and don't actually orient yourself to that. What is that? That is a result of your karma. So when you're doing a work, you know, don't look at the other dimension of the work. What am I going to get out of it, or what am I going to achieve out of it? If you can do that, according to Rai Ramanujam, you know, then you attain a devotion within you, develop a devotion in your heart, in your being, in your internal system. তখন যদি এমনভাবে কর্মটি হবে যে কর্মের মধ্যে ফলাকাঙ্ক্ষা নেই, সেই কর্মটির দ্বারা সেখানে ভক্তি সঞ্চার হবে, সেটি উনি প্রথম বললেন, এবং সেই কর্মটি করে যেতে হবে। So what the sages used to do is a karma, is a work the sages used to do as a work of your duty, work that the sages were destined to do. So for example, when Jangabalko, he used to have a, you know, big establishment of students and teachers. And in fact, it's not Nalanda or Takshashila. It's far, far, far back to that. It's almost, you know, more than around 15,000 to 12,000 years before that, you know, Takshashila and Nalanda, when, you know, Jangabalko had his own, you know, teaching system and learning system. And it is there mentioned, it is there mentioned in Yajurveda that, you know, Jangabalko had a Samavartan, convocation of 10,000 students together. So which is amazing in the world now. Even now in the world, there is hardly any place, there is no place, as of now we have heard that at a time 10,000 students are, you know, for qualifying, graduating from one place and getting their certificates, you know, from the institution. There's no example in the modern world. And known period of history, there is no example. Oxford started first convocation with 12 students only. Cambridge started convocation with around 30 students. So it is 800 years ago, but then they did not have even that span. Yes, Nalanda, Takshashila, they had also, but they had at a time 200, 300 students at a time clustered together in that place. And in the, you know, there's a Gurukul system. But then the Gurukul system is very ancient. It's not the same Gurukul as we visualize in the Nalanda system. It's different. What is that? What were their karma? The karma was there, you know, the very early morning when it dawns, meaning the student wakes up. Wakes up when? Prior to the rise of sun. Prior to the rise of sun, the student wakes up. And what happens is when the student gets up prior to the rise of the sun, the person is actually getting so much of time. The person is actually getting immense time in the hand, and that is not important. More important is another dimension of the cosmic system. What is that? Because the sages are telling prahar, a day of 24 hours has got 8 prahars. Prahar is a period of 3 hours. So each prahar has got a split of 3 hours. Now, medical science, those who are doctors of endocrine system, those who are senior superior doctors of diabetic system, they know, they understand that middle of the day, middle of the night, and a few hours next to that is the most sensitive period for those people having some kind of dereliction, some kind of difficulty, some kind of weakness in terms of the the endocrine system, or the blood glucose system, and human blood pressure also. So that is the period when it is very sensitive and susceptible. 12 to 3. But then the next prahar, there is the first prahar, 12 to 3. Then the second prahar, 3 to 6. This is the prahar begins with 3, 3:30, 4, 4:30, 5, 5:30, up to 6. Now the sun rises in the east around 5. So just prior to that, let's say 4 to 5. 4 to 5 is the most ideal period. If somebody does a meditation at that time, the meditation will be many times, many-fold powerful than the person having done a meditation in a different part of the day or different time period of the day. Now, what happens is during that period, your consciousness, your internal system becomes so much responsive, so much, responsive to your inner call, that the inner call is registered immediately. Therefore, the sages used to do what? The sages used to make the students, the shishas, the disciples, all get up, during that period. You get up, you get yourself ready, and the last at least 1 hour prior to the sun rising in the east, that at least 1 hour you begin with your meditation. When you do the meditation during that period of time, you'll find the grandeur of that, strength of that. If anybody tries to do that, we have done, for Nash Yoga many times here on this Sunday connection, and we'll do again. There is a special variety of Nash Yoga which I plan to offer through this mode also. That's difficult to offer through a distance mode, but still I'll try. That is a special type of Nash Yoga. But then when you will do that, when you actually get into that, you'll find that profile get deluged. You get deluged in the thoughts that you have actually cultivated, created, captured, and taken forward to. যে মনোভাব, যে ভাব ভেতরে এসেছে, সেই ভাবকে এখন সেই ভাবের মধ্যে ডুবে যাওয়া। একজন ভক্ত বলেছিলেন ডুবুরির কথা, and she was so correct in that, and she was mentioning that the ডুবুরি যখন প্রথমে ডুবছে তখন সে তার চারদিকে চিন্তা থাকে, তারপরে যখন ডুবুরি ভেতরে চলে যায় তখন তার অন্য চিন্তা থাকে না, হয়তো তাই, but ডুবুরি has got a connection with the outside world for the oxygenation. Yes, but that is a good example, thanks to her. But then it's even more, profound. What is that? Because, when you are absorbed in that, then you are not in your own conscious climate. You are into a different conscious climate. So the sages had an objective that to put that disciple or the student in a conscious climate which they are aiming at transforming them for. So what is the ultimate objective? Shraddha sadhan. Shraddha, what is Shraddha? Shraddha is to have a realization of God within. Now, realization of God, how? Unless you develop an, attraction for God, you cannot have a realization. And attraction in a worldly sense is the attraction for money, attraction for other sensual enjoyments, attraction for material enjoyments. All these are attractions. But those are attractions which are, covered and bounded by the time. Over a period of time, those attractions get diluted and, they become a, attraction, fosters and creates destruction. It has got a reverse, it's got a reactive phase. But attraction for God can never have a reactive phase. Attraction for God has a reactive phase, which is again further attraction. So your reactive phase is what? Reactive phase is, when you are attracted to the thought of God, the consciousness of God, then the next attraction which takes you to is that, again further deeper. So you've got a deeper thought of God, and in the deeper thought of God, you get immersed, which Sri Ramakrishna gave an example, is a very befitting example of, for a doll made of salt gets deluged in the water of the sea. Because that is a sea water is a salty, and then salt goes to the salty and it gets, absorbed, and there is no separate identity. But then you maintain your identity as a person, as an individual, and at the same time you learn that climate, you have that understanding of the consciousness, which is the supreme consciousness. So that's the onset of devotion. So what the disciples were learning, actually, they were learning the seeding of devotion within. Even though they are not doing any kirtan, they were not having any chanting, they were all absorbed within themselves, and they were far superior devotees than many others. They were superior devotees in the truest, in the real sense of the term, because they are actually devoted internally in the intrinsic plane of their own consciousness. So now the conversation continues. It's the walk. And then, Ramananda says the next is, Krishna Karmarpan, meaning your walk is endowed to the Lord. Yat karoshi, yat asnoshi, yat juhoshi, dadasi, yat tabushavushi, kaunteyo tat kurusho mat arpanam. So this was mentioned by Lord Sri Krishna to Arjuna in the context of the war again. And there he's mentioning that, whatever you're doing here, oh Arjuna, whatever you're doing, you give unto it to me, you dedicate that to me. When you dedicate the work to God, then it's no longer is your work. So you are doing a work, but you have dedicated. So the moment you have dedicated, you don't have any right to the work. You don't have any right to the results of the work. So if you are dedicating that, and if you can really dedicate that, it's not that simple as you mentioned, like a literary person mentioning in a lot of activity, a lot of words mentioned for the activity. No. It's not thousands of words mentioned for the activity. It's a single word followed in your life. And that single word is very simple, that you have to dedicate this to God. Simple. And this dedication to God is very difficult. If you have got a small iota of selfish concern in that, you cannot. So dedication presupposes that you are bereft of, you are free from the selfishness or selfish considerations. Selfishness and selfish considerations are considered to be the values, the attributes of the demons. These are the attributes of the demons. These are not the attributes of noble personality. Noble personality can't have that. So then the next was your Krishna Karmarpan. Then Lord, Chaitanya, Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya, he wanted to hear more from from Ramananda Roy, and it said that you continue, meaning Yo Vajjhage Kahwa. And then he was continuing mentioning that karma tag, meaning you get rid of the karman. Get rid of the karman. There are many people who have mentioned that, but there is no support of this theory from Bhagavad Gita, no support of this theory from the Bhagavatam. So karma tyag, Lord Sri Krishna has never supported. Karma tyag has never been supported in Bhagavad Gita. Rather, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna wanted to urge Arjuna to do karma intense, to wage the war immediate, and to do that as a devotee. to do that as a person of ascesis, to do that as a kind of doing in meditation, to do that as a kind of offerings to God, to do that as a kind of sacrifice to the cause of the divine. So he did never endorse this, relieving or giving aside the karma. There are many people who have said in many different contexts, which is not supported by either Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhakti theory of devotion has never supported leaving aside karma. Rather, it is always said that you have to do your karma, and you have to do like there should not be any addiction to karma. There should not be any personal consideration in the cause of the work, and there should not be any personal involvement. The karma you do with your best effort, with your best energy, with your best motivation, with your best strength, with your best capacity, with your best capability, with all your thoughts put together, but do never do it for your personal gain. And you will find if you need some personal gain, never keep that also in mind, what I am going to say now, but that is automatic. If you can dedicate the karma to God, if you can really truly dedicate it to God, then the other things will be taken care of by the Supreme. If anything is essential for you, if anything is truly imperative, then that will be there automatically available to you without you having asked for. That will come. So then, Ramananda continued saying that, Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Then he said, Jnana Shunna Bhakti. First, he had talked about the devotion, which is full of, knowledge. And then he said that even superior is Jnana Shunna, the devotion which is devoid of knowledge. And then he came up with the concept called Prema Bhakti, meaning a concept where the devotion is out of your, causeless love. Prema Bhakti is a love where there is no cause. There is no cause, causeless love. A love for God without any reason. Love for God without any reason. There was an experiment in the Dakshineshwar between Sri Ramakrishna and young man of young person of Vivekananda, Narendranath, and he had asked. Narendranath was asked by Sri Ramakrishna, "Why do you come here?" He said, "I love you, that's why I come here." And for no reason. Even though he had a lot of reasons to come. Because, a lot of, big people, renowned people used to come to Sri Ramakrishna, and he could connect Narendranath with any of them and tell any of them to give him a job. Yes, one person who did never, keep his words, he could never keep his truth. He proved himself as a person with falsehood, and he gave Narendranath a job. But then he had, thrown away Narendranath within a very short period, saying that he is incapable, incompetent, cannot become a teacher. Narendranath, a graduate of that period of time, who had actually, conquered the world in terms of his, wisdom, his knowledge, and his personal profile. He was identified by this man just a few years before of Narendranath's having achieved in the world, that incapable, incompetent. And that man, he actually had activated a few students, 4 students, to write down a complaint. Like these days also there are politics in academic institutions or many places. Somebody influential, invites some students or involves some students to write some complaint against some other person. That was actually done by that man to create a document. And he had created the document that way. And those 4 people, when they grew up, When they grew up in their own, as persons, they had lamented and they had said, we did such a huge blunder. We did such a huge, sin. We committed such a huge sin by writing this. Even though we did not believe in that, we were told to write, we wrote. So that is the kind of thing. So this Narendranath used to love Ramakrishna, and he used to go there for sheer love for the person whom he considered as a person, and later on identified him as a god. And he said avatara barishtaya, meaning he considered Ramakrishna as the the embodiment of God. Barishtaya is the best out of all embodiment of God, who is actually primal to all others forms of God. So now devotion comes to Prema Bhakti. Sri Ramakrishna was supporter of Prema Bhakti. He used to tell Prema Bhakti is the ultimate. But then Ramananda did not stop there. Then he came to the concepts of Dasho, Sakya, and ultimately he came to the point of Kanta Prem. Mahaprabhu had culminated into the concept of Kanta Prem. Kanta is a local linguistic term which means wife, or the love for a wife. That was actually rejected by Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna said that devotion, the ultimate form of devotion is a devotion to mother. Devotion to mother is noble. No expectation, no commercial transaction is there in that. And any other, for relations for the devotion has got some kind of expectation, reciprocal, or some relations in that. So that was he had rejected that and said that it's the devotion for mother which is the ultimate. So devotion, and that too devotion for mother. That's why he started worshipping Mother Kali, and Kali was considered by him as a Kali, Brahman. Kali is a form, Kali is a formless, Kali is everything, conscious, superconscious, everything. She is void, she is in form, and she is the maker, maintainer, or everything of this entire creation. And she has got the Lord Shiva as a kind of, provider of strength and maintaining everything from the background. So that was a kind of equation and relation in this form of devotion. But again, I should mention here very clearly and honestly that, Bhagavatam, the original source of devotion, has actually cancelled, has not endorsed this. What Mahaprabhu has said, that is not as per Bhagavat. Mahaprabhu has given these examples, and at each level he has mentioned Yehubajyo Age Kahoar, meaning this is somewhat outward, somewhat external to that, and you continue with something forward that was actually rejected, that is not endorsed at all by the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam comes with the concept of Navavidha Bhakti. Again, Mahaprabhu mentioned that Navavidha, but in a different way. The conversation between Chaitanya and Ramananda Rai had 9 different phases of devotion. But what Bhagavatam has captured is the original, and that is the fundamental source of devotion. This was actually coined and put across by 2 persons in different ways. One was Sri Ramanujam from the southern part of the country, and Ramanuj Acharya, and the other one was the Madhyacharya or Madhyacharya. Madhyacharya or Ramanujam Acharya. They actually carried it forward, because when they were saying that Advaita, that formlessness of the Supreme, has to be qualified with a concept of a love for the Supreme. So Supreme is a form and Supreme is formless. But when you want to have a love for the Supreme, you need to have an entity. So the same formless infinite, who is, who is universal, who doesn't have any barrier of time, who is free from all the clutches of time, space, and personality. In Bengali, it's called Sthan Kal Patro. Onar kono Sthan Kal Patro ঠিক নেই, যদিও আছে কিন্তু নেই। তিনি অসীম অনন্ত, he is infinite, but again he is in a form, in a body. He is infinite, but then again in a body, in a form, in a structure. So this kind of apparent dichotomy, if somebody doesn't understand, then there is a dichotomy. Apparently, if you look at it, you will find that there is a conflict, there is a dichotomy. দুরকম মনে হচ্ছে, actually দুরকম নয়, it is the same thing. And then this Advaita or the oneness is invisible, meaning he's omnipotent, omniscient, he's always omnipresent, and he's present everywhere. He's present all the time. He's present in all the minds, all the soul, all the hearts, all the interiors, all the consciousness, all the elemental consciousness, all the molecules, atoms, present everywhere. But at the same time, he can be construed to be present in a particular place. And that is what Ramakrishna was worshipping Kali. So he is present everywhere, but he is present there. And when he is worshipping Kali as a mother, he is developing a relation with the mother. And this relation requires that God appears to you as a form. And therefore, Advaita should be Vishishta. Vishishta means qualified. So monism has a qualified context. So it's a qualified monism. In a qualified monism, you have got universality. Immanuel Kant had thought about the Taliskaya cosmos, meaning he's present everywhere. It's not he, the truth is present everywhere. Is the truth present everywhere? That's true. Truth is present everywhere, but what is that truth? Is it that, something which is measurable, quantifiable, and electable? Meaning, এটা কি সেই যার একটা ওজন আছে, যার ব্যাপ্তি আছে, মানে কত তার দৈর্ঘ্য প্রস্থ ইত্যাদি হলো, তার চেহারা কেমন হলো, আর তার ইলেক্টেবল, তাকে আইডেন্টিফাই করা যায়। ইনি কলকাতার, উনি বম্বের, উনি দিল্লির, উনি মরিশাসের, উনি লন্ডনের, আইডেন্টিফাই করা যায়, ইলেক্টেবল? It is not. It is actually something which is actually universal. So there is no distinction and differentiation across other parameters than the supreme and cardinal principle. And what is the cardinal principle? He himself is the truth. That is the reason why the sages used to tell Ritang Badishwami, Satyang Badishwami, meaning Badishwami is not just to tell. Shankaracharya has explained this in the right manner. Shankaracharya is saying, here Bodhisattva is actually connected to the original spirit. And the original spirit is saying, I am inviting you in my life. So when I am saying, I'm going to speak the truth, I am actually going to speak the truth to you. So when I am going to speak the truth to you, then I am going to speak your truth to you. So I am having a realization of God. I'm going to place the same realization to him. Exactly that is what had happened in the Vrindavan. And the Vrindavan had happened what? It was actually the devotees who were all around. And the devotees had a primacy of the call of God. What was the primacy? In whatever manner, whatever work they are engaged in, they were involved in. The moment they had, the ear vibrating the flute of Lord Krishna, and they said that, oh yes, we have to rush immediately without any other consideration. So then, what is the primacy? God is the primacy. God has given a call, so I have to go there. But, at the cost of what? At the cost of anything and everything. So that was the mind for the connect with God. That is the mind for the primacy of God. Anything else is non-primacy. The sages used to teach their students, their disciples, what? Primacy of God. The moment you have a primacy of God, you develop a love for God. You develop a concern for God. You develop a love and concern. Ramakrishna was lying on a bed in Kolkata and on the northern part of Kolkata and Kashipur. And then he was very ill, having a cancer in throat inside, and it was a very advanced stage. Narendranath and others were offering the service. One day, all of a sudden, Narendranath was there alone, standing by the side of his head, and some other people were there in the surroundings, but he was the closest. All of a sudden, Ramakrishna had a huge cough from within, and he had a huge cough, and suddenly the cough came out of his mouth, and nothing was there to hold that. So Narendranath did what? With two of his, palms, hands, he captured that, people call it a dirty material. And in fact, medical science says that it is very, very dirty and very, very poisonous. And that very, very dirty, very, very poisonous, people call it poisonous and dirty. Narendranath found that is Amrita. It is nectar. And immediately he got it in his hand, in his palm, and he totally, fully swallowed it within himself. Within a fraction of a minute, everything had happened, and others who were there, slightly distanced, they rushed to his bedside, and then they had asked, Naren, why did you do this? I could bring the container to throw it away and to wash it afterwards. Ramakrishna was silent. He did not say anything. I think after a couple of days of this incident, he made a comment to Narendranath that I have given out my everything to you. I've given out my everything to you. I've given out my everything to you. That was the incident of transfer materially. But it does not have any other consequence, or it did not have any, poisonous consequence or anything. He did not develop his cancer. He did not have any problems of cancer. However, because of his hard struggle, and he had to, give away the life at an early stage, early life. But then again, the creation that he was destined to do, the work that he was destined to do in the world, he did that. He was destined to do the world, you do spread the concept of God in the world, which he did, and he was very, very successful in that, and he had a conclusion in that. Sorry. I'm sorry. So what was that? Devotion is like this, devotion doesn't, when you have developed a devotion, you have developed a love for the personality. And when you have a love and care for the personality, when you consider the personality and God in the personality, you don't have any other consideration than the love and devotion, love and care for the personality. So that was there in Bhagavata. Bhagavata said, Shravana, Manan, Kirtan, Anudhyan, Padasevan, and this Vishnu Shwaran. These are the 5 phases of preparations for devotion. Then what exactly is the devotion, where it takes place? Bhagavata says, Dashya Sakhya Atma Nivedana. Dashya Sakhya Atma Nivedana. Consider yourself as the servant of Lord in the truest sense of the term. Sakya, you become a friend of Lord in the truest sense of the term. Atma Nivedan, consecration, which Jangavalka had put forward, and then that was in the pre-modern and early modern period. Sri Aurobindo had coined that in his the core concept of Savitri and the life divine. Atma Nivedan, consecration. That is the ultimate condition of devotion. So, where is the origin of devotion? Origin of devotion, as in the mind of Indra it had occurred. Shraddha, respect. For what? For God, for the supreme truth. And what was the meaning of the respect? It had a component of love. It had a component of concern. It had a component of care. Love, concern, care. ইন্দ্রের মনে যে শ্রদ্ধা জাগলো, সেই শ্রদ্ধার মধ্যে কি ছিল? তার মধ্যে ছিল ভালোবাসা, তার মধ্যে ছিল তার প্রতি একটা নিষ্ঠা, এবং তার জন্য নিজেকে সমর্পণ করবার একটা মনোভাব। এই যখন থাকলো, তখন সেটি হয়ে উঠলো একটা প্রকৃত শ্রদ্ধা। Then this actually culminated into a thing called devotion. এগুলো মার্চ করে, কনভার্জ করে আস্তে আস্তে ভক্তিতে পরিণত হলো। যখন এটা ভক্তিতে পরিণত হলো, then it is unquestioned. তখন আর কোনো কোয়েশ্চেনের অপেক্ষায় রাখে না। তখন ওই যে বৃন্দাবনের যে কথাটি বলা হলো, বাঁশি বাজলে ছুটছে সবাই। কেমন ভাবে ছুটছে? যে যেমন ভাবে ছিল, যে যেমন অবস্থায় ছিল, যে যেখানে ছিল, যে যে কোনো কাজের মধ্যে ছিল, সে সেখান থেকে সে রস করলো টু দ্য লর্ড। আর কি ভাবলো আর কি ভাবলো না? ভাবলো আমাকে ভগবানের কাছে যেতে হবে। সে ভাবলো, তার ভক্তি সঞ্চার হলো। আর কি ভাবলো না? সে ভাবলো না এই যাওয়ার ফলে আমার কি ক্ষতি হতে পারে, কি লাভ হতে পারে। সে ওই হিসাব নিকাশ, ওই কমার্সের মধ্যে গেল না। ওটা হচ্ছে কমার্স, হিসাব নিকাশ। ওই হিসাব নিকাশের মধ্যে সে গেল না। This is true devotion, where you have an object of devotion, the target of devotion, God as a target of devotion, as an object of devotion, and in the act of devotion, you don't have any second principle of concern, any second principle of attraction. That's why Bhagavatam is saying, Dasya Sakhya Atma Nivedanam. Dasya is you provide, you offer your service to God, unquestioned service to God. Then Sakhya, you become a friend of God, because you will be endowed with a true friendship from God. May not be outwardly, maybe internally, intrinsically. And Atma Nivedan is what? Atma Nivedan is your consecration, your dedication to the cause of the truth, cause of supreme truth, and to the cause of Lord Himself. And that makes you a devotee. তখন তিনি একজন ভক্ত হবেন। এর আগে পর্যন্ত আমরা যাদের ভক্ত বলি, তারা এমনি এমনি আমরা বলি। ভক্ত তাদের হয়ে উঠতে হবে। হয়তো হওয়ার পথটা শুরু হয়েছে, এই শুরুর পথটি শেষ নয়। যদি কেউ ভাবেন এই পথটি শেষ হয়ে গেল, তাহলে তার আর কখনোই হওয়া হবে না। এই শুরু হলো, শুরুটা চলতে থাকবে। একটা সময় আসবে যখন তিনি কৃপাপ্রাপ্ত হয়ে যাবেন, when there will be endowment, or the endowment from the Supreme Spirit, and that endowment will have a graceful position to the person and the person will be graced by the Supreme. The person becomes a devotee of the Supreme. And once the person turns into a true devotee, the person is a person of God. Yogokshemo Baham Maham. Then the God says, I take care of your yoga, I take care of your worldly life. I take care of your devotion. I take care of your meditation. I take care of your concern for God. And also the other aspects of life I take care of. Hey Prabhu Sachidananda Parabrahma Sanatan. Bhakti Sanchar Hote Thaku Savar Mone. Hey Prabhu. We'll do chanting again. আমরা আবার এখন বেদমন্ত্র পাঠ করব, সবাই জয়েন করুন। ॐ वाग्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनः मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठिता
ॐ
वाग्मे मनोसि प्रतिष्ठितं मनः मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम्
आभिः मेधि एतस्य मानि स्तः श्रुतं मे मा बृहसिः
वेदस्य मानिस्तः श्रुतं मे मा रहस्यः
अनेन दितेन अहोरात्रान् संददामि
अनेन दिनेनो अहोरात्रं ददामि
ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि
रीतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि
मामवतु तद्भक्तारामवतु
मामवतु तत्तारामवतु
मामवतु भक्तारामवतु भक्ताराम
अवतु मामवतु भक्तारं
शांति शांति शांति
ओम शांति शांति शांतिः
ओम आपयन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणचक्षुः
ओम आपयन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणचक्षुः
श्रोत्रमाथः बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि
श्रोत्रमातः बलानि च सर्वाणि
ब्रह्म उपनिषदाम्
सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदम्
अहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यात् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत्
माहं ब्रह्मो निरकुर्यात् मां ब्रह्मो निरकरोत्
निराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणमेऽस्तु
अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणमस्तु
कर्मते मोहि सन्तु ते मोहि सन्तु
धर्मस्य
धर्मस्ते मोहितन्तु ते मोहितन्तु
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः
ॐ पूर्णमादः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते
पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते
पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते
पूर्णस्य
पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते
शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः
सहनो भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु
सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु
वीर्यं करवावहै वसीनो हरितमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै
तेजस्विनोमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
ॐ शान्तिः
शान्तमित्रः शाम्बरूनः शाम्नो भवति हरियो नः
ॐ शान्तिः शम्बरूनः शम्नवति हरियो नः
बृहस्पतिः शाम्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः
बृहस्पतिः शम्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः
ब्रह्मणे नमः ते वायु
नमो ब्रह्मणे नमो देवायु
प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मसि
त्वमेव ब्रह्मोऽसि
प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि
त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि
वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि
गीतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि
रामवतु वक्तारमवतु तु मां शान्ति शान्तिः
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृण्वां देवा
ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृण्वां देवा
भद्रं पश्येमाक्षवीर्योत्रा
भद्रं
भद्रं
पश्येमो अग्रवीर्योत्राः
ीर्यङ्गै
स्थिरैर्यङ्गैः त्वां
वशीम
देवहितं यदायु
शांति शांति शांति
शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
We shall now do a meditation for 2 minutes. এখন আমরা 2 মিনিট ধ্যান করব। A meditation for 2 minutes now. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma. We're stopping here. We shall meet again on the screen next Sunday, Indian Standard Time, 5:30 p.m. আমরা আজকে এখানে বন্ধ করছি। আগামী রবিবার আবার ভারতীয় সময় 5:30টায় আমরা মিলিত হব। সবাই ভালো থাকবেন। উইশ ইউ অল দ্য বেস্ট। নমস্কার। সবাই ভালো থাকবেন। অল দ্য বেস্ট টু এভরিবডি।